you can't really be a leader without knowing that you have to take the consequences of putting your neck out there when it doesn't go well. When it goes bad, it's going to go bad. You have to take the brunt of it, but then get right back up, brush it off, and get back at it. Especially keep in mind, it's a family business too. It's not like I'm doing this for some random guy that where if it didn't work out, all right, it didn't work out, I guess I'll go into the job market. No, this is my dad. This is my sister. This is my brother, my mom. It's like, okay, I put us on the line for this amount of money. If this doesn't go good, I don't know if I'm going to get invited to Thanksgiving.
Welcome back to another episode of Rhymes with Odd. My name is Ryan Snod. It rhymes with Odd. And you're listening to our next episode here. We have a really fun guest that is one of my clients, but has a really cool story about business, second generation business ownership with your siblings. Yep. We've got Spenser in the house. Spenser, welcome to the podcast.
Ryan, thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
Sure. Well, thanks for making the trip all the way to the thriving metropolis of Granger, Iowa.
Dude, it's growing out here.
Yeah.
When driving in, I mean, I've had some friends in the area, but yeah, it's kind of growing out here.
Yeah, there's a fairway going in. If you saw all that land being moved, they're going to have that done by spring of next year.
School's huge.
Yep.
Wow, looks really nice.
They're building, I want to say building on the north side of town. So I live in Polk City.
Okay.
And we're like, it's a 10-minute drive away, but we just had Kirk Bjorklund, in, and he's the city administrator for Granger.
Okay.
Cancer survivor. He has a really cool story, but
awesome.
His episode will be out before yours. But he was talking about how just like it's going to change everything. Like the next decade's going to.
Well, you see what's happening with Grimes, and then we're Norwalk people. We're down south, but we don't get here a lot. But yeah, just driving in, I was like, whoa. This has changed a lot out here.
Sure. So, I'll talk to people like from West Des Moines or Waukee, and I'm like, oh, my students in Granger, and they're like, where? Like, they don't even know this place exists. So it's kind of...
They're in the bubble. They don't get off Hickman. So,
exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly. No, I love it. But so I think your story is going to be interesting because I know a little bit, enough to be dangerous, but I don't know the full story of like how you guys started the business, like how your father passed it off, and just all the challenges there, because I think... especially for people that are starting a business, or in a lot of people's situations in Iowa, it'd be family farm.
Yeah.
Their dad or their grandpa or their grandpa's grandpa started a farm.
Second, third, fourth generation.
Yeah, and the pressure is to, should I do it? Do I want to do it? If I do it, how can we put my own spin on it? So I think that'll be a really fun topic today.
Absolutely.
You're also a huge Vikings fan, so we will dig into that later as well.
I was just at the game on Sunday night.
Oh, nice.
So just got back.
They won, didn't they?
They did. It was a little ugly first half, but second half was great, and future looks bright up there. So that stadium is just so much fun. Take the family, it's indoor. Sure. So we just I'm just lucky that my wife, my kids are falling in love with it like I did. So it gives us something to look forward to every year. That's kind of like that's like our thing, football season. So
well, do you do the face paint and the antlers and the? Are you unrecognizable if you're on TV?
Well, yeah. Well, you see me, I'm a bigger guy, so it's like if you saw me in the end zone, I think you could spot me out. But they make those chains that light up and stuff, and I was gonna get one of those, and my wife's just like, you really don't need that, do you? And I was like, well, why not? Never got it. Sure. But
you got to get the wig and then the mustache and the horns. I know my stepdad still is a huge Vikings fan. His family's from northern Iowa, so they're really close there.
Yep.
And when I was a kid, I just didn't want to be a Vikings fan. I'm like, I don't want to just do what everyone's doing. So I was a Bears fan. I'm just like, I'll pick another Midwest team. And then I used to be really like when Urlacher was playing, like Rex Grossman, all those guys. Like, Devin Hester, like I watched all the games, knew all the stat lines, and then I got like 12 or 13. I got super busy with my own stuff. Right. And just stopped watching like my team. So now I'm like kind of teamless.
Well, hey man, you can jump on the bandwagon. Sure. We got, like I said, next year you got JJ McCarthy, and stuff. You just never know. But it's funny how easily accessible things are now compared to when we were kids. And I'm a bigger fan now than I even was then, because back then, if it wasn't on cable, I didn't know what Sunday Ticket was. I don't know if there was Sunday Ticket back then, but it's just crazy. And then I didn't even go to a game until me and my college buddies went up to a Monday night game, real cheap. And it was, because neither team was, and it was the Bears. And Adrian Pearson scored in our end zone. But anyway, it was at the Metrodome. That was the first game I went to. Here, my 5-year-old daughter, she loves it, into it, sings Sunday Night Football, Carrie Underwood every night, and on Sunday nights. And I'm just looking at her. I'm like, you've been to like 6 games already, and you're 5. I didn't even go until I was like 24. You know what I mean? And it's just like, which I love. Hey, she appreciates it. She has an amazing time. And then my son, who's only 6 months old, I'm sure he'll love it someday too. But it's just funny how, we're very fortunate we can go because, it's not cheap. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I love it. And we'll talk more about Viking stuff later. I think
Sure.
It's a cool tie-in though, because when you find something you're excited about to get your mind off work, it's always nice you can reward yourself with go to some games or do whatever you want to do.
Gotta have that.
Sure.
Have that. Sure.
So then when you guys strike gold and you find underneath one of your car wash locations there's an oil mine or something, you guys can get season tickets on the sideline or something. So
it's like one of my life goals, be a season ticket holder.
Sure.
Is like, you look at what the prices and all that are. But anyway, we can get into all that. But that is one of my life goals for real is, someday be a season ticket holder and pass them down and go from there.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I love it. Well, I think a good place to start would probably be telling the people who you are, what you do, and kind of what your role is in your guys' family car wash business.
Sure. So, my family business is Executive Laser Wash. It was started in 1985 by my dad. He owned a video arcade rental and so an arcade video rental was his first business. He came to this country back when I've looked into it, but it's a tough subject for him. When I bring it up to him, he doesn't like to talk about it a lot. But he was in Uganda when Idi Amin was dictator. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe that's back in the 70s or right around then. Long story short, started. He's Indian, so they were, they wanted to get rid of him. They wanted all, African, native people and all that sorts of stuff. So anyway, him and his family got refugee to Malta. And from there, a church in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, of all places, sponsored my dad and his family to this country. And, they came here, immigrants, the whole 9 yards. And for him to come here in the 70s, and then I'll tell you how he became a Steelers fan. It's because he was working for Wells Fargo, was his first job, and all the coworkers were excited about the Super Bowl in the 70s. Guess who they were playing? Vikings. And Steelers killed him, right? And so he gives me crap all the time. That's how he became a Steelers fan. But I'm just like, awesome, Dad. But anyway, came to this country, total American dream story. And started that, he worked for Wells Fargo for I think like 10 years. And he got to that point where he's like, I'm not built to be an employee, right? Look at all this opportunity around. He's like, so he started that video rental arcade. And sure enough, he told me that the realtor that sold him that building and that business, she had this car wash on the south side of Des Moines. She couldn't unload it. Like, nobody wanted it. I want to say it was listed for maybe $30,000, $40,000 at the time.
And this is in the 80s?
Yeah, this is in the 80s.
Okay.
Yep, this is in the 80s.
So for inflation, that may be like $100,000?
Yeah.
Maybe? Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. So anyway, long story short, ends up, and she took him to see it, and here again, this is all stories he's told me, and he just saw this place, and he's like, I don't know anything about car washing. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Well, he bought it, right? And he has that entrepreneurial spirit, and he bought it. And he's, the rest is history. He told me that eventually the video arcade and the video rental closed. He got rid of that. And I'm thinking, well, think of the age of streaming and like Blockbuster. They're gone. So it's like, good thing he got out of that. But he always took that business and he always, put everything back in, right? Everything back in. And it's funny looking at it. We'll get more into it, but it's like I look at it now compared to the way he had it then, things I take for granted now, for what he built. But anyway, that's how the business started. on the south side of Des Moines on Southwest 9th, right across from Board Narrows Pizza, and he put in the first automatic in the state. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure first automatic car wash in the early 90s, and it was one. Now we have 31. So it's crazy how in the next year will be 40 years. In 40 years, how we've been able to grow it. And he started literally not knowing anything about it, not knowing anything. So anyway, we have 6 locations around the Des Moines area now. And so it's been a journey, to say the least, being when you grow up as his kid, right, and seeing him put everything into it, build it. And then my mom too, a part of that. She helped start it because she was working at Wells Fargo at the time. So she had the full-time job while he was out there. We weren't making any money at the time. And he was putting everything back in, working till midnight, 1 o'clock. He always used to tell me, he's like, that's why I didn't make it to a lot of your football games. And I'm just like, I understand. I didn't understand then as a kid, but I look back and I understand now. And anyway, that's how the business started. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, and so you're now second generation. What is your title and role, and then what other parties are involved with your siblings?
Yeah. So we always go back and forth about what titles we are, but it's more of what roles we play. I'm very fortunate that my sister and my brother, who are younger, so I'm the oldest, have bought in to the business just like I have. And I would be, I guess, if you had to give me a title, like operations manager, boss, right? Sure. And my sister, she's amazing with our customer service. She handles our books, keeps an eye on our money, those sorts of things, our banking. And then my brother, he is really talented. He's about half the size of me, so he's really good on the ladder. And he is very good at the mechanical side. And then the other role that I take on is tech, which I'm sure we'll get into, but what a role technology plays even in a car wash with a fully automated business of how much is involved in that. So I kind of take up that lead on that. So
sure.
Yep.
Well, and I think it's a cool system that you guys have, and we'll talk about that, the details of it. But just for the layman out there, most people would assume that car washes are pretty passive business, right? You build it, make sure there's soap, and it's plugged into the water. And
it's just soap and water, Ryan.
Right.
That's all it is. It's easy. Yeah.
What are some of the, just at a high level, what are some of the upkeep, maintenance, improvements, things that you guys have to do for all 6 locations in terms of how to run them effectively? Sure.
I could go on for hours, but I guess the short of it is you got to think about, first of all, you think about a car wash business, especially in Iowa, or all around the country, it's different. Just like, some businesses are different in the South, the North, whatever. Well, in Iowa, we deal with lovely Mother Nature, and it's always changing, whether it's super cold, super hot, or like I swear we had a drought going on, then all of a sudden we get a monsoon. Well, people's cars are obviously caught in the middle of that. You constantly have road conditions changing. You constantly have even new things coming out on vehicles, accessories, all these things. And the thing that we do is we have to set those washes up to handle those elements because we are a 24/7 business and it's all self-automated. So we have to set up that business to wash that car. Maybe it's the night shift worker at midnight, the same quality as the worker on their lunch break at noon. So the amount of, customers always ask me, what's inside? Because our buildings, you have 6 automatic bays lined up, right? And they're like, what is in the middle there? It's a ginormous building. If anyone, watching this has seen us, I get that from customers, what's in there? They think it's apartments in there or something. I'm like, no, it's 2 levels of full equipment. And they're like what? Boilers, softeners, I always tell people your water softener in your house? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, think about that on steroids times 10, right? For the amount of, water that, goes through our facilities. We have renewable water, right? We have, reclaim systems. We have, hydraulics, high voltage electronics. I always tell people, if you filled out a resume after you worked at our location, you'd be able to put about every trade on that resume. You'd have experience in plumbing and hydraulics, this, that, electrical, da, da, da. And basically, without getting too technical with it, is when I came on is you got to have a foundation of just your routine. And the biggest thing that I've learned is it's all about the attention to detail. It's the little things that separate you. Like you were kind of getting at earlier, a lot of car washes, first of all, a lot of the car washes around here are, your franchise or like your corporate outfits. They build them and leave them, right? They build them, they put all brand new equipment in them, and then they, maybe have an attendant there to do trash or, the basics, and they basically forget. And then they wonder why it starts breaking about 2-3 years later. They're like, why is this breaking? Why is this doing this? Well, the amount of maintenance, especially when it gets below 10 degrees and we're in a water business and you're dealing with, the winter. Our winter's our busiest season because, they put all that lovely salt and beet juice and all that fun stuff on the road.
Keeps you guys in business though, right?
Oh my goodness! I'm not gonna lie. When we see a blizzard coming, we pop champagne because we're like, but then it's also like anxiety because we know what's coming.
Yeah.
Right.
And if something breaks and it's 20 to below, and then you're out there in a parka, you're like, I wanted to be at Christmas with my family, but now I'm out here trying to fix all this crap.
You got it. The amount of little things that go into a car wash, just these little 50-cent parts that can screw up everything, but you're checking that all on a daily basis for the first 2 hours of your day, every day. So every one of our machines is rigorously checked every morning. Does that? Nothing's perfect, especially machinery, especially technology. We all know that, but we try to minimize that by our maintenance programs. So like, you get a machine and it says, grease it every 6 months. We grease ours every 3 weeks. And people go, well, why in the heck do you do that? The manual says 6 months. Well, we're set up uniquely for, higher volume and things to where we go the extra mile on everything because we want that when that huge lines of cars line up, we're ready for it. So, I mean, I guess to put it all is it's hard to explain, but it is a lot of attention to detail, and it's daily. You cannot build it and leave it. I'll tell you that right now. It is every single day, 7 days a week. You got to have someone there or yourself constantly on this. And I guess that's how I can put it. The best way is like, hey, you want to? I'll show you.
Sure.
But yeah, there's a lot to it. And our guys that I'm very blessed with, our team that I've built. They are, they're skilled trade. These are not, they may have different backgrounds, but it is a skilled trade job for sure. So,
sure. No, that's really cool to hear.
Yeah.
And I think, and I've obviously seen it because I've shot some videos there, but also the other side of it, like you said, there's differences between corporate versus local and all that good stuff. So we can talk about that more too.
Yep.
Before we go any further though, I'd love to jump back in your backstory and hear a little bit about your upbringing, your childhood. You mentioned a couple things in your kind of as your dad started the company, but what was it like growing up with your siblings and being involved in this business, but also seeing it from afar as a child too?
It's funny how much I appreciate it now, right? As an adult, I have wife, kids, and the opportunity that I have now because of them. But back then, being a kid my dad was gone a lot. He was working constantly. He wasn't blessed with the technology like we have now, which we'll get into, or even being able to afford help. Right, it was a one-man show for a long time, and seeing that now. So I grew up. I was always most dads are they take them to games, right? Like football games. Like I just mentioned, I didn't go to a Viking game till I was in college. Well, he didn't take me to the football game. He took me to the car wash. Right. So I'm 5 years old with the hand, power wash gun, just playing in the bay, just shooting water, thinking it's the coolest thing ever. And, that's where it all started. It was summers. It was, Christmas break. It was like, we didn't do Christmas like every year until like 7 PM because we're open on Christmas Day. So when you don't have help or whatever, you got to go work first. Then you can open your presents. It's like, oh, okay. So growing up in that is it was interesting. And then my brother and my sister, they came along. They were always helping too, because my mom was involved in the business for a lot of years too. And my sister would kind of go with her. They'd handle a lot of the kind of money stuff and banking and things like that. And then my brother, the youngest, he came along too, and he was always helping in summers and stuff. But it was funny because my dad wasn't big into the day to day. He had a manager for that, so he would just hey, go see what they need you to do. Well, then I'd be there, I'm painting posts. I'm doing all this grunt work, They're like, yeah, like we got the boss's kid, da da da, and I did that for a lot of years, and then. Sure enough, I go to college, went there for marketing, played football, all that fun stuff.
Where'd you go to school?
Went to school at Iowa Central and then Hastings out in Nebraska. So it'd be like your Grandview.
Sure.
So anyway, did that and, went for marketing and all that fun stuff. And then when I got done with school, came home and sure enough, I'm like, oh, okay, what am I going to do? Well, the old man's like, hey, you can't work here until you go work for someone else. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I did everything from sell satellite TV to work at Wells Fargo. Sure enough.
Wells is just keeping your family afloat.
Yeah, I know. My mom was a teller at Northwest before it became Wells Fargo. And that's how my dad met her because he was bringing all those quarters in. Quarters haunt his dreams because you imagine an arcade back in the day, there's no tap cards. It's all quarters.
Well, and then he got into, I'm sure car washes were just coins for a long time. So you get those POS systems in there. So, yeah.
Dude, people always give me crap. There's like, oh, yeah, you just collect your quarters. I'm like, well, we do a little more than that now. But yeah, pretty much. Still take quarters.
Sure.
But yeah, so, come home from school, do all that, and, went and worked there. And, it came to a point about 11 years ago now, and I talked to my dad, and he's just like, well, what can you do for me? What are you good at? Because he's not one to just hand things out. It was never like that growing up. It was always if you want something, I'll pay half, but you got to go earn the other half. And that's how we always made deals. If I want something for my car, if I want something, whatever, it was always half. Like, well, you know where to go earn it. And he put that hard work in me. And then, of course, playing football, that was a big passion of mine. So you mix those two things together, teamwork, leadership, all those fun things. So anyway, I get out of college, all that, and then work for someone else. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, what can you do? I'm like, oh. I was like, well, let me show you. I had no idea what I was going to do. But I'm like, let me show you. So I made a deal with him, and he agreed to pay me, I think it was only like, it was like $30,000 a year or something like that. Is what I was making at Wells Fargo at the time.
Sure.
So he agreed to match that. Again, not giving me any more like, oh, you're my kid. Yeah, I'll double your salary. Yeah. So again, came on board. He still had his old manager and, the guy that helped build all the car washes was still on board and those sorts of things. And basically what I started off was I just started asking questions. Because again, when I used to work there in the summers and all holidays and all those things, I wasn't doing a lot of the technical work, right? It was just kind of hey, we didn't have a guy to clean up today. Go clean, right? That's where they were short. So that's what I ended up doing a lot of. And I still learned a lot, being there, being around it. But then coming in is I just started asking questions. I went around with him and I'd ask a question. I'm like, hey, why is this way? And he'd be like, well, no, it's not supposed to be that way. I'm like, oh, well, it is. And so anyway, so then we'd start collaborating and, why is it that way? Then we start looking into it. And then, I just started to slowly just change things, right? I would run it by him first, but I'm just like, hey, I don't think this is working. I think it could be better. Well, how could it be better? Well, this is an idea. I don't know if it'll work, but let's try it, and sure enough, so that's how it all started is I just came in, asked questions, and then sure enough, before you know it, I start, changing things and making things better. And like he didn't have online bill pay when I came on. He was still paying all the business bills with paper checks. And I'm just like, yo, we should set up the company on bill pay. And he's like, what's that? You know what I mean?
You're spending like 6 hours a week cutting checks.
Oh, dude.
You're like, this is all that time's back now. You can do other things.
Yeah. And like I said, it wasn't just car wash things. It's the admin side too, you know, and because keep in mind, my sister wasn't there yet. You know, she was still in school. So it's just those little things that before you know it, you know, I started changing. Well, then as that went on for a few years, then our my dad's manager had been with him for like 20 years, helped build the car washes. He was amazing. Very talented, could build these locations because our locations are custom, which we'll get into why we're different. But he literally, you know, we build our own locations. It's not a cookie cutter situation. Well, he decided to move on, and my dad's just sitting there. You know, I'm only like maybe 2 years in. He's like, well, who's going to run the day to day? Because I that's not me. Like, that's not what I do. I'm not good at that. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm like, I guess I will. Keep in mind, this is like, you know, hiring, firing, you know, training, you know, everything to do with management, essentially, right? I don't, you know, this is just my personal opinion. There is like no college course you can take to prepare you for that, right? And so I had very, very hard lessons learned. Right throughout those years, because I mean I was figuring out as I went, because that really wasn't his deal. You know, he didn't really ever do much of that. It was just knowing how to recruit people, go through resumes, how to discipline people, have confrontation, you know, all these things that nobody really likes to do. I had to go do. And keep in mind, I'm only 25, 26 years old, and so anyway. I'm going through all that. I'm, learning as I go, making a lot of mistakes. Fast forward to about 5 years ago, I really started to show that, okay, things are really starting to change. The technology started to come in. I started to have some good guys on the team. So I was taking more and more and more and more away from him. Which it's not negative, but like just more and more things off his plate. Yeah. And then here we are 11 years later, I've taken it pretty much all off his plate. Like he's finally started admitting to his friends that I'm retired. Spenser's in charge. So it's funny that when I hear him on phone calls that he's finally started to tell people that, because he is one that will work till the day he dies, and that's awesome. I love it. But yeah, I've earned that respect with him, the trust with him to make the decisions. I don't run every little thing by him anymore. I don't, but it took a lot of mistakes and a lot of hard nights, being out there till 1, 2 in the morning, missed holidays, missed friend stuff, you name it, sacrificing, out there in the cold, out there in the heat. And well, here I am 11 years later, it was worth it. Sure. So I guess that's kind of the progression in a short version of kind of how we got. And then my sister and my brother kind of followed up with me. I got them on board. And, I started to just kind of delegate some things to them as we started going. And then that in turn helped them learn, and then we all have bought in to what this awesome business can do for us and our family and our team, our guys that work for us. And when we all are bought into a common goal, it allows you to work together. Because that's the biggest thing I get is like, how do you work with your family every day? And I'm like, well, we all know our roles and we go do it to the best of our ability because we all have a common goal. Same thing with my team. They know the goal. So when they're bought in, it's just we go do what we got to do. We don't get big into labels. We don't get big into that sort of thing, egos, that sort of thing. It's like, who can solve this problem right now for me so that my stress level goes down? Sure. And that's at the bottom level to my new guy all the way up to me. And that's the mentality going in. Well,
and it's really cool to see because you look at like I work with a lot of large bureaucratic organizations where there's like 3 or 4 layers of each department. And there's like, if it's just outside of my scope of work, I don't touch it. Where it's in your case, it's a real team environment where our common goal is this. Who's the person on this team that can take this and has the skill set to do it? Exactly. Using the football analogy, it's like, you're not wanting to be the quarterback because you have a huge ego. It's like you can throw the ball really far, that you should probably be there.
Yeah.
And if you're like you're a good kicker, like you should kick it, not because you're going to score or whatever, but like it's going to put us in the best position to win, you know?
I openly tell my guys on my team all the time, and even people around me, I'm not good at that, but you are, you know? And I always tell people, I'm like, I may not be able to fix it, but I know how it's supposed to be, and I can coordinate the person to come in and help me get it done, you know, or a guy on my team. I could very much go, why is that way? And he's, oh yeah, it's been like that for a while. And let me show you. I'm constantly being taught by my team all the time. And I openly tell them, I'm like, you know, thank you for showing me. I had no idea what you were talking about.
Sure.
So when you think you have it all figured out, and if you think you do, you don't. Sure. It's always changing.
Well, and I'm also curious too, you mentioned like you came on and then your siblings came on. Has it come to a point where your dad's actually like sold the company to you guys, or does he technically own it and you just work for him still?
So that's the dynamic of it is, so he is still the, I guess, quote unquote owner, right? He has started to give us, like, you know, we've done the full estate planning, for example. And that's, when we sat down to do that, we actually started in 2017. That's how long it really took, because it just got done. So
holy cow, so it's 8 years, something like that?
Because you know, and that's why this is where I take the respect from my dad, that I know I'm doing the right thing. He's literally, you know, working on this tooth and nail to make sure that this goes to the right people. He always said, if you guys are fighting, the lawyers will win. So he wants to make it so, like, he's like, the lawyers will get rich and you guys are going to lose everything. So he's like, you know, that's one of his biggest pet peeves, you know, because he's had some friends in the industry that he's had, you know, that you hear the horror stories about that kind of thing. Well, again, keep in mind, us three are bought in. You know, we're here 7 days a week. We're buying it. So it makes it easier. But he started that in 2017, and he has we've signed it. It's done. And, you know, God forbid something happens to him. It's me, Brittany, and Braxton. It's on day one. So with that being said, for him to do that basically told me right there. And the fact that I'm making the big decisions that I am, I'm an owner. Am I on paper? No, but I have a lot of perks of being, you know, making my own schedule, those sorts of things. But as far as on paper. But the other side of that too is we kind of looked at the tax implication of it, and not to get too crazy into that, but it's like, you know, putting my social security number on, because we're an S corp, so you put our social security numbers on that totally changes the way I do a tax return, or if I even get one. Sure. You know what I mean? So that was one thing we all discussed, because he's like, yeah, sure, you know, hey, you want to, sure, I'll put your name on there, and then you go in there and you sit down with the accountant, and they're like, yeah, you know, then you're, you know, then you got to pay this, and you're, you know, and it just gets crazy.
Sure. That
was another big factor in that. It's like, you know what, I'm good for right now. You know what I mean?
Keep it simple.
But we know the end game though. See, that's the biggest thing, was when he signed that. We actually just got it done this last winter, and when he signed that, you know, that told me right there, okay, yeah, this is mine. You know, I'm going to take it to the next level, whatever. And so that's kind of the breakdown of that.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. Well, I know, like I said, I've been around people that are family farms and stuff, and some people, it's like they go through their entire career to hand off their operation to kids that don't want anything to do with it or have zero interest.
Yep.
So the fact that 3 kids are all interested in the business is a testament, because especially growing up there, you could have some resentment there of like, I don't want to be involved. I'm just going to do my own thing. Or if you have zero like interest in the nuts and bolts of it, but it seems like you guys have all kind of found your way to give as much back as you could with it.
We vent a lot, like anyone, right? And but at the end of the day, I tell my guys this all the time, and I tell my brother and my sister, even my dad, this all the time. I'm like, you know, I thoroughly enjoy getting up every day and coming to work here. I love working with my team. I love working with my brother and my sister. It's fun. You know, I wouldn't get up 7 days a week to do it if I was miserable. And that's the other thing with my team, is I got great retention with them in a job climate that I'm sure we can go on a whole episode about that, of just how insane the job market is. Well, I got 7 full-time guys right now, and majority of them have been with me for a long time. You know, that is my validation right there. If they're coming into work every day, they're not calling in sick, they're in a great mood, They got great attitude. Well, I must be doing something right. Well, then it's like, well, that's how I feel. So if that's how they feel, well, hey, winning. So it's like, well, I really enjoy that. So anyway, to get to that, yeah.
No, I think that's a great point there. In terms of the changes, you mentioned like wanting to kind of have this new next generation, new wave of it. When you kind of first started getting, I would say 50% of your current duties, when you're kind of halfway to where you are now, maybe like 5-6 years ago.
Sure.
What were some of those things that you were telling your dad, hey, we should really be looking at this or that? What were some of those things that you wanted to bring to the table?
Yeah, so the biggest thing was the technology side. One thing I'll never forget is when I first came on, my dad, we talked, and we were talking one time, and he goes, be ready to work every day, all day. And I'm like, okay. I just got married at the time. Like, I'm a newlywed, right? And we haven't been married for very long, just bought our first house. And he's like, just be ready. You're going to be working Christmas. You're going to be working Easter. You're going to be, da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, he's like, you can't have it all. And I said, why not? And he's like, you can't. He's like, there's just no way. Keep in mind the way he brought up the business, how he built up the business. And I'm like, okay, well, watch me. I took that as a personal challenge. And it was not an overnight thing. Here, again, 11 years later. So that always stuck with me. So again, as I'm starting out learning the ins and outs so that I know what I'm talking about, because I didn't, and now I do. I'm starting to learn a few things and make a few things better. That's when it started to change. Is I said, hey, I remember our university in West Des Moines and our 50th Mill Civic location in West Des Moines. So, and Ankeny had just opened. Our new one in Indianola, we just opened this year. So Ankeny was like brand new, like only a year or two old. But then we're working 5 years later, the machines. I said, hey, I want new machines. He's like, what do you mean? There's nothing wrong with the ones there. I'm like, well, these newer machines, they can wash a car twice as fast. He's like, yeah, right. Well, I knew of a location that had one. So I went there and I timed it, right? Just preliminary. It's not set up like ours, but
doing your market research with your stopwatch in the car wash.
Because here again, it's not. Sometimes it comes off again. Like I said, he said you can't have it all. It was my response. Watch me. Well, that's my response when he says no, it won't. I'm like, yeah, it will. Watch, and like I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything, but it's just like, no, okay, fine, I'll show you. So anyway, I convinced him to upgrade these machines because one, they can wash a car twice as fast. Two, the parts are half the cost and half as many. You don't have to hold as many on site, and to service it is half the time to service it. Where to service a machine the old way, it's about an hour and a half per machine. Keep in mind, we're doing this every 3 weeks. So add that up times 31. That's a lot of hours dedicated to one job, right? One task when there's 6 of these machines at one site.
For 6 locations?
Yeah, for 6 locations. Yeah. So that's a lot of work. So anyway, I convinced him of this. And we're talking about, $1 million and a half dollar decision here. And so I talked him into it. I said, yeah, we got to put these, I want razors. I want, we use Wash World razors. So I said, I want these in. He's like, but there's nothing really wrong with the machines in there. I was like, I know, just trust me.
Like, we'll sell them to some other place. We'll get our money back somehow.
Well, what I ended up doing was I ended up taking those 6 and putting them in our 2 older sites on Southwest 9th and Indianola because they had the same machines, but they were like 10 years older than even those. Mm-hmm. So what I ended up doing was I said, because he said, what are we going to do with these? I said, we're going to repurpose them and we're going to put them in at Southwest 9th and Indianola. He's like, why? I said, because they got like 10 less years on them, And he just kind of looked at me like, so you want to swap the machines? I said, yeah. Well, then the ones that we take out there, either we keep what's good for spare parts, or sell, sell them off. And he's like, okay. Well, that took through COVID. So, because we did university in April of 2020. Let me tell you how fun that was. We're literally doing 6 machine swaps in the middle of COVID. So
Well, there's probably no one really driving around.
No.
Like no one's going anywhere. So
well, and see, that was the thing though. We were slammed because we were one of the things that you didn't have to get out of your car. So like, you know, the audience, if they've been to one of our locations or if they haven't, I encourage you, you know, it's self-service. There's no people. Yeah, it's all computers and automated. So it was one of those things that you could do. You know, in our vac area, you could park far enough apart that you could get out, wipe your car, and you're like 10, 20 feet from the next car.
Sure.
So we were slammed. But anyway, so we took that on. We got that done. And here you are with brand new machines. And then it's like, okay, you know, you got the new pump stands, the new machines in the bay, you got all these, but then that also we gutted all the wiring. So we put all new wiring in. Keep in mind these locations at the time, they're, you know, 15, 18 years old. So we gutted everything, redid it, So that's when I really started to take it, because then on the other side of that, the newer machines brings the new technology. So back in the old days, if a machine faulted, okay, which happens, right? Machines fail, or, you know, if a machine, you know, let's say, you know, the old adage in car wash, fold your mirrors in. Let's say a truck drove in, there's a huge mirror, and here comes the arch, because we're touchless. You know, we don't use brushes or any of that stuff, so we're touchless. So here comes the arch, and it touches that mirror, and stop, right? It stops for safety. Well, now that bay's down. Like, it's not resetting. It tells that car, so that customer, you know, they lost their watch, they didn't fold the mirrors in, whatever. Well, now the bay's just sitting there, down. It's not taking money. It's not resetting. It's not doing anything. So my dad would, at all hours, have to drive in at 10 at night, 11 at night, because he'd get a page on his purple pager, right? Pager code. And damn, that thing wouldn't shut up. I mean, my whole childhood. But you have to drive in there and reset the machine manually. Okay, reset it. For all he knew, 2 hours later, same thing happens, right? Well, so then fast forward to these newer machines, you know, they have a virtual assistant. They do that all themselves. And I can even dial in on my iPhone to do pretty much anything, you know, short of, like, you know, sometimes a part will break. You can't fix that from your phone.
Right.
But I at least can dial into the thing, open the door, shut the door, reset it, do all this from my iPhone, from my couch. And he's just like, you can do what? Because remember, you know, the way he came up, it's pager, drive. Me, I'm like, no.
Kid's birthday party, cutting the cake, put the knife down, get in the car.
Right, because then even like the fault pages going from a pager to email, to Gmail. So we all have Gmail accounts for fault codes. And there at the beginning, he was on those. So he would see them. He's getting them. I've since retired him from all that. I was like, you don't need all that anymore. He's like, okay. So, but you know, so he would call me like, hey, there's a bay down at 50th. I'm like, yeah, I know. He's like, well, are you going to go fix it? I was like, I already did. He's like, what do you mean you already did? I was like, well, all right, well, it's fixed. I got to get back to, I'm going to get back to it. And here again, I'm making it sound really easy. It's not that easy, but just having that element to have in my arsenal, because it puts me and my team in 6 locations and 31 machines 24 hours a day, which before you had to physically be there to do anything, right? Mm-hmm. Well, there's a big difference when you're virtually there and when you're physically there. So I started to implement all those things, because again, this is stuff that he's just like, okay, like you try to explain it to him. I'm just like, here, just let me show you. And then I start implementing more and more and more of those things. And now here we are. We just got done putting in, we'll talk about upgrades and all that fun stuff, but we just put in new pay stations, take Apple Pay, Tap Pay, and all that fun stuff. Well, putting all that in, making it easier to pay and everything, well, that's all on the technology side. It's all computers. It's all, compliance, all this fun stuff that you have to do. So anyway, that's when it all kind of started for me as becoming like the guy. And where he just was like, okay, because then over time you prove it to him, numbers start going up, sales start going up, and all these things. He has less and less that he can get on me about, right? And I always told him, like, hey, I'm trying to get to the point where you can't give me crap anymore. Sure. You know? And so anyway, that's where we got to with that. And that's what really propelled me, is showing him that there's a better way to do it. You know, I'm not saying the way he did it was wrong. I mean, he had what he had. He built a hell of a company, you know, 4 locations, 5 when I came on. And, you know, he built the infrastructure of these places. What's amazing is they're custom. They're not something you just call and order up, you know. And the way he built these, he made them so that I could upgrade this equipment 20 years later, and I didn't have to knock the building down to do it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's like, how did this guy think to make the bay 50 feet long when back in the day he only needed 25? But he's like, no, you know, that might need that extra space someday. How the heck did he think of that? You know, like that's where he's just, it blows my mind. It's like, how did he know that we would want to put these bigger machines in 20 years later and that we have the infrastructure to do it? That's crazy to me, because you know, it's easier for me to come in and be like, okay, yeah, we want new machines, take some, it's going to fit, you know, line all the people up, let's get going. But he actually had to build the buildings, you know, the whole infrastructure, buy the land. You know, we own the land. You know, we don't lease land, we own land. So it's like, thank God he did that. He set the sales record in West Des Moines for per acre when he bought the land for University right in front of Hy-Vee. It'd be Jordan Creek Parkway and University right now by Golf and Country. Hy-Vee owned that land at the time. He bought it from them and set, I want to say it was like 1.2, 1.3 million for the acre. Keep in mind, this is 20 years ago.
Sure.
And there was nothing out there except for the Hy-Vee. That was the only thing. And, you know, but thank God he made those decisions. You know, I'm not saying buying versus leasing, you know, there's pros and cons to all that.
But it's the McDonald's adage, right? It's you don't want to just lease put your business on there. You want to own the land and then lease the business back to the landowner, you know?
Yeah. There's a bunch of ways to make money in that. But, you know, just him making those decisions back then, right, to buy the land. Like, we own all 6 of our locations. Like, we physically own the land, we own the building, we own it all. You know, we don't have any outside investment. That's the other thing, is this isn't like plan B for us. We do other things like, we got some car washes. This is all we do. And you know, we can get into more of that, but I think it shows in our, you know, with our customer base and how successful we are. It's because that is what we grind every day of the week. So anyway, that's when it started to really change, is when I convinced him to drop, you know, $2 million to
gut things that were working fine.
You got it.
And make it more efficient.
You got it.
But it's like upgrades, people.
Yep.
Your arm works fine, but I'm going to give you a cyborg arm that can pick up a car. You're like, but my arm works fine. Like, but it can look so much cooler with a cyborg arm.
You got it. And but see, then that led to new dryer systems. That led to new paste systems. But see, then what we do is we try to copy it times 31. So if I make a decision on one thing, I always got to keep in the back of my mind, okay, I got to times this by 31. So keep that in mind, right? If I make a decision on something. And that's honestly one of the biggest lessons that about 5 years ago, when you take that step from just being a consultant type to like, hey, I think we should do this and da-da, when you actually put your, you know, I think when any kind of leadership role, I feel like, at least in my experience, you can't really be a leader or be that guy or woman on top, CEO, whatever, without knowing that you have to take the consequences of putting your neck out there when it doesn't go well. If you can accept that and you can actually be okay with, like, know that you're not going to make a right decision every single time, but being able to understand that when it goes bad, it's going to go bad. You have to take the brunt of it, but then get right back up, brush it off, and get back at it. And that's a big lesson that I learned. 'Cause again, you're convincing him to, we're a small business. That's big, that's a lot of money. So, and especially, right around COVID. So it was like convincing him that, hey, this is a good move for us. Let's do it. This is going to launch us to where we're at now with all the tech that we use. This was step one. So, I mean, it was all on me. Like he'll tell you, it's like, well, you convinced me to do this. And then it spiraled into everything that we did now, which is great. But, being able to own that, because it could have went bad. Luckily, it's gone great.
Sure.
I got a great team, and it's been going great, and we're running them real well, and it has paid off. You know, he'd tell you it was the right move, and it paid off. It took a lot of time. I mean, it wasn't like day one, oh, wow, it's great. You had to dial them in. You had to go do this. You know, it took a lot of, learning, and you basically had to relearn the whole business because it's completely different. So, but for him to trust me on that, and me to be willing to put my neck out there on that one, especially keep in mind it's a family business too. It's not like I'm doing this for some random guy that where if it didn't work out, all right, it didn't work out, I guess I'll go into the job market. No, this is my dad. This is my sister. This is my brother, my mom. It's like, okay, I put us on the line for this amount of money. If this doesn't go good, I don't know if I'm going to get invited to Thanksgiving.
Sure. Yeah, Christmas, you're going to get a box of coal.
Yeah, and at the time, we had just had my daughter was born. So again, I got a wife, I got a kid at home, starting fatherhood. So yeah, that was it was a big deal. But again, it's risk reward, right? I mean, but I truly believed in it, and I wasn't going to quit until it was better. And because keeping in mind what he said, you can't have it all. Well, tying back into this story, I knew that technology and this better equipment and those would eventually hopefully lead to having it all. And that was my biggest motivator. These car washers are like his babies, like his kids. Like he looks at them, he gets a tear in his eye, because remember, he came from nothing, literally came from nothing, started these from nothing. Me, I look at them like, I looked at it like, when I came on is like, how can I make these better? Right. So that's the difference. Like you were getting at is owner versus second generation. He started them. He looks at them like they're his own children. I come in, I look at him like, okay, he built something here. How can I make it better? How can I make it work better for my family, for my sisters, my brothers, and on and on and on. Now my son and my daughter. So it's like, how can I make it even better to where now I can be a dad? I can go to the gymnastics meets. I can go do these things. I can provide benefits for my employees. I can hire better people. I can give them vehicles. Right? It's just a spiraling effect. So when I'm looking at that, I'm like, okay, how do I turn it into that? And that was my big motivator. So anyway.
What's been one of the big things that you've gotten back? You said the ability to even go to Minneapolis for a game.
Yeah.
Your dad probably never took a vacation, never left within a 50-mile radius of Des Moines because something could go wrong.
We would try to do one family vacation a year. We were fortunate, he used to take us to Colorado and all these places. And, he very quickly realized that kids just want to go swimming. Right? Kids just want to go swimming. So he took us to Mexico once. Okay. And that's where we just went every year. Cancun, Cabo, wherever. We were very fortunate we were able to go. And we'd go for a week. But yeah, in that week, you could just tell by the second to last day, he's just like, I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to go home. But I'm wired that way too, so I really can't give him that much crap because
he's standing in the ocean on the phone, they're like, Dad, come swim with us. He's like, no, I'm talking to people.
Well, then I'm a victim of my own success because by having the mobile access to a lot of the things,
you can't shut it off.
He knows. So even my brother and my sister know. They're like, yeah, if we bug Spenser, I bet he could dial in on the beach right now and solve this. So, which is fine. I'm wired that way too, so I can't give him too much crap. But we take a week, there. But it was that, like I said, Christmas, it's, we knew Christmas at 7:00 at night, usually had to go snowplow, right? Because he couldn't afford to pay people to do it, so we're, it's all these little things that I'm very fortunate that we've been able to take that business. So from he started them to now, here we are, taking them to the next level and being able to provide all these things, hire out things that we normally had to do ourselves, and which is great because then that frees us up to upgrade the equipment, to come up with new ideas, work with you on media and marketing and all these things that we never used to be able to do. Like I remember when we just started not too long ago, I told you, we got a Facebook page. It's about all I got time for, so it's all these things that it's awesome. It's all these new opportunities, but we're only able to do that because we've built a whole brand new foundation of this thing to where, we're utilizing just making things more efficient, run better. So, and like I said, we got better people too. I'm very blessed with my team. I keep saying that, but it took a lot of years to find a lot of good people, and I truly care about each and every one of them. And again, a lot of them have been with me for a long time. So I take that as personal, like, well, I must be doing something right. They're here every day. They're in a good mood. So they must not hate me too bad. And my brother and my sister still talk to me. So I must be treating them well. I got to take the high road a lot, but that's okay. It's part of being the oldest and the boss, quote unquote. So you always got to take the high road, and you never get any credit. So it's a thankless job on top, which again, that's fine. I give them crap about it all the time, but so I used to get used to it.
That's great.
So
this episode is sponsored by Executive Laser Wash, a 24/7 touchless car wash with 6 locations in the Des Moines metro area. This is a second-generation business, and we've actually had Spenser on the podcast as a guest, and they were gracious enough to sponsor today's show. We currently shoot with their team each month, and I continue to learn new things about the industry and see firsthand how Executive Laser Wash keeps holding it down and not cutting corners for their customers. If you're needing a car wash, this is the place to do it. Their state-of-the-art washes allow you to get in and out quickly, pay from your phone without rolling down the window, and they are consistently reinvesting in better improvements to keep your car looking its best. I personally like using time in the car wash to get caught up on emails while the car gets cleaned. That's a pro tip right there, so you should do the same. They've also recently added monthly memberships where you can get unlimited washes for a flat monthly price. So if you're one of those people that's really particular about keeping your ride clean year-round, this is a great option for you. Supporting the sponsors that support this show allows the podcast to continue to be free for you to enjoy each and every week. If you're interested in giving them a try, you can use code ODDPODCAST, that's ODDPODCAST, for 50% off your first 2 months of any wash membership. No contracts, cancel anytime. Just download the Executive Laser Wash app and follow the prompts for adding a membership. Just make sure to include Odd Podcast at checkout in the discount section for that 50% off your first 2 months. Now, let's get back to the conversation. All right, so let's get into the lightning round. I think this will be a good point to pause and give you a break from telling your story.
No problem.
Also, then I can slam you about Vikings trivia. So,
oh gosh.
Okay, so we mentioned you've been a Vikings fan for how long now?
My whole life. My grandma got me into it, but like I said, as far as like really following it, probably since college.
Okay.
I'd say. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, fun fact, yesterday we had a former Minnesota Viking defensive end on the podcast.
No way.
Lives in Waukee. Yep. His name's Carter Schultz.
Okay.
He's the GM for D1 Des Moines. So they're indoor football training and other sports, stuff like that.
Awesome.
We're shooting with them tomorrow as well, one of my clients, but I knew he was in the NFL. So I'm like, played for the Vikings for a season, and then he was with the Panthers for a season too. So played with Julius Peppers and Luke Cakeley and all those guys.
Oh,
so
man.
Imagine being in the locker room with those guys.
No.
Because what position did you play?
So like I'm a big guy, but I played offensive line, and I see how big these guys. I'm a big guy, but I'm small compared to these guys. I mean, they would toss me around like it's like just normal Monday.
Sure.
So yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of wild. Just the sheer size and strength and just the explosiveness of these guys.
It truly is on another level. I mean, it's kind of scary. I've never been more injured in my life than when I played in college. I didn't even play at Iowa or Iowa State or anything. I was at smaller level, but Iowa Central, I was playing with a lot of D1 guys. The guys, that old adage of maybe they got in trouble or they had bad grades or whatever.
They're D1 athletes with D's.
Yeah, well,
D's and F's.
Yeah. I mean, my motivation was I went there to get re-recruited again because I screwed up on my ACT in high school, so it cost me a D2 scholarship. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go to Iowa Central, and I'm glad I did because I made some lifetime friends while I was there. It was a great experience, but I was injured all the time, and it got to a joke my second year where it was just, we're having Jeshani Day, which would be light shells, and just helmets or something. It just got to be a joke because it literally took me all week to get ready to play Saturday, and I played every Saturday, but man, I was in that training room. So again, big guy as I am, imagine these guys doing it all the time, every day, consistently on up into the pro level. Just imagine how good a shape these guys are in. I mean,
sure.
So anyway.
Sure. No, it's great. It's fun too to see just who's all involved in it because you just never know. But okay, so we'll quiz you here, give you a couple seconds to answer. Some of these might be a little too advanced, some might be too basic. We'll see where you fare here. So,
oh boy.
First question: were you a Randy Moss fan?
I was.
Okay.
I was. Chris Carter. Randy
Chris
Moss.
Carter.
Yep.
Dante Culpepper.
Dante Culpepper, and then Robert Smith, running back.
There you go.
Before Adrian Peterson, yeah.
Yep. So the question: how many seasons did Moss play with the Vikings?
Oh, man. It's like, how long was he there before he went to the Patriots and the Raiders?
Basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say he was there. Wasn't he 99? I'm going to say like 8 years, 8 seasons.
7 seasons.
No
so
way.
close.
Okay.
So close. He played 14 total.
Okay.
First 7 with the Vikes, and then he went Patriots and then Raiders as well. Very close, though.
Yep.
That's surprisingly close. That was good.
Okay.
Okay. Name 6 quarterbacks that played for the Vikings.
Oh, well, you have, just in the last year, how about last season? There was like 8 of them, you know? But anyway, Culpepper, Warren Moon, you had Ponder, you had Brett Favre. Dude, quick side note. Okay. I broke the TV in my college apartment that they provide in what was that, 2009, when they played the Saints in the NFC title, and he threw 6 interceptions. Percy Harvin fumbled 8 times. We basically just please don't let us go to the Super Bowl. Here.
I remember that game because my dad was also yelling at the TV.
Dude,
so.
I threw the remote through the college TV. So anyway, I had to pay for a new TV, that was fun. But anyway.
But we got 4.
Okay, so we got 4. And then, of course, Kirk Cousins and, you got Nick Mullins, you got Jared Hall, you got all these guys from last year. So,
sure.
Yep.
The one that stuck out to me was Blouth.
Oh, wow.
Because I was watching a sports documentary, and he got traded, and he was starting for a couple games, and I'm like, oh, Blouth's on the list, but yeah. But that was good.
We had some Kirk Cousins jokes in the stands when I was there on Sunday. A lot of Colts fans giving us crap because we couldn't score in the first half. They're like, Kirk Cousins calling the plays from Atlanta, and I'm just like, you just gotta laugh about it now at this point. It's so anyway.
Well, they always joke Minnesota Kirk Cousins versus Atlanta Kirk Cousins. Now he's walking with a crip walk, and he's got his beanie on sideways.
Dude.
It's like
I
he's
will
a
admit
gangster now.
that whole Kirko Chains thing was hilarious. Dude, you gotta have fun. That's the point. That's why I love the NFL. It's just fun. So,
well,
anyway.
and just curiosity, what does skull mean?
So I read this recently.
It's the chant that
it's a chant. It's from the Viking, right? The Viking. It was like a war chant, I believe. And here I'm butchering this. There's gonna be a lot of people like, dude, you call yourself a Vikings fan, but I did actually just look it up recently because you take it for granted. You're just like, oh, skull chant. What is that? You know, you don't ever take the time to. Well, I googled it, and it's some sort of war chant, but that they did back then. So anyway, don't quote me on all that. I probably just butchered it.
Well, now I know because I was just like, what is everyone?
I'm gonna Google it after this.
He's on his phone the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, you got 8 out of 6, so that you did extra credit for that one. Awesome. So that makes up for the last one by missing by 1. That's pretty good.
Hey, not bad.
You were just at US Bank Stadium this last weekend.
Yep.
New stadium they just built.
Yep.
I've been to the old dome, and then when they tore that down and then did the Twins, I've been to the Twins Field for baseball, but I have not been to this one. US Bank Stadium, what is the attendee capacity that stadium can hold? How many people can it hold?
Oh, man. I know this. I know it's in the 60s. I know that. It's not 70. I want to say 66,000.
Literally 66,000?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I would have been like, no clue.
You know how I know that? It's because I'm planning my season tickets every time I go, and I'm counting each sit. Like, where do I want to sit someday? Yeah. No.
59,007, 59,008. Yeah.
If you haven't been, I got a bunch of friends that are other I got Chiefs fans, I got Packer fans. Well, anyway, long story short, we all go, whenever they're in town, they come with me. I got a Dallas fan too. Poor guy. But anyway, it's just they always say after every time they're just like, man, this, after they're, most of the time they win, so they give me crap first, but they're just like, this is a really nice stadium. Like, it's a fun place to have a game and da-da-da. I'm like, yeah, man, they know how to do it. It's comfortable in there. Like me, I'm 6'3", 6'4", big dude. leg room's a big thing, and there's leg room there, and they just think of all these. There's literally hundreds of bathrooms and concessions. Like it takes you about 5 minutes to get a beer. Like literally anywhere in the stadium at any point in the game, you don't really have to wait in line too long. So they they thought this thing out. So again, when you're taking your small kids and you're taking your wife and all this stuff, it's those little things that make it enjoyable. So anyway,
I'm looking forward to the new Chicago field. That I've seen the plans for that. That just looks pretty wild. Maybe that'll make them actually win when they have a really nice field.
Hey, it's funny what can happen when you put these billionaires put millions back into it. It's funny what could happen.
Sure. Okay, so this is kind of a gimme. This was like your get back if you missed a couple ones.
Okay.
But
all right.
Who's the first round draft pick for 2024?
Oh, JJ McCarthy. Yeah, man, dude, I'm excited about him.
Because he's not playing yet, is he?
No, so he tore his knee in preseason, but it's funny because he didn't know he did. So he played that whole first preseason game, lit it up, and everyone's like, like typical Viking fashion. We're like, oh my God, we're counting our chickens before they hatch. We're like, dude, we did it, we got him. Literally next morning, JJ McCarthy tore his meniscus, out for the season. Like, what? Like, that's just our luck. But look at Sam Darnold, man. Sammy Dimes. Here's a guy who, third round or third overall pick, and just needed the right opportunity, the right place, right? The right placement of it.
Sure.
Just like in business, like for us, we're a high volume car wash. For us to make sense, we need high volume. Well, so it's all about placement. Where do you put it in town? Well, it's kind of the same way about that situation. It's kind of sort of similar. So
sure.
Anyway,
no, I love it.
Yep.
Okay, last question. You might go all the way here and do the whole thing here. You're on the 5-yard line. There's no one there.
Punch it in.
Just don't drop the ball before you get in the end zone.
All right.
Justin Jefferson, star wide receiver, just signed the biggest wide receiver contract of all time. What were the details of his new contract?
Man, because I was so excited when this came out. Because, I love Justin Jefferson. I think he deserves it. You see how modestly he lives? He just has a little townhome.
Yep.
And now he's got jewelry.
See the jewelry, you might think
jewelry in the car, but dude, townhome. He's like, I ain't got no big family. I'm good. No, it was. It's a 4-year deal. And I know it's about $150 million, if I remember right. I know he's getting paid about $35 million a year.
Yep.
If I'm right. Yeah.
It's $140 million total, but 35 mil over 4 years. That's right on the money. So.
And I think guaranteed of that, I want to say is pretty close to all of it, if I remember right.
Which is almost unheard of because in the NFL, if you get hurt, the money's gone.
Oh, yeah.
In baseball, you keep it. If you bust your leg on the first season of your 10-year contract.
Did not know that.
They still pay you out for everything.
Well, in baseball, too, they don't have salary cap, right?
No.
In the MLB?
No. That's why the Yankees have like 10 times the buying power compared to these cheap teams. They always win.
So that's why if you see like the Minnesota Twins in the World Series, it's like, wow, they must be really, really good, like young guys or something. Like
where you look at like Cowboys would win every game if there weren't salary caps because Jerry Jones is like a multi-billionaire. He'd just be like, we'll just buy more people. Where, baseball's a little different because I recently shot a draft party for a local kid that just got drafted to the Rockies.
Oh, awesome.
And he played football at Iowa and then baseball at Iowa. He could throw like 103. So he picked baseball because of the longevity and the guaranteed salary and just you can play for a lot longer because it's not so hard on your body.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So. No, it's completely different. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, fun things. But yeah, I used to be a huge baseball. Your football growing up was like my baseball. Like we went to all the Midwest parks. I went when I was like 10 to the Minnesota Twins first game. And then my wife and I, before we started having kids, every summer we'd go to a Twins game. So we'd drive up to Minneapolis, do a weekend trip.
The Target field is nice. I've been there for a concert. Never been there for a baseball game, but it was an outdoor concert, obviously. And no, it is very nice. That Target field is definitely worth going to. It was really nice.
Sure. Well, the train system's fun too because you can just take the train and not have to walk outside or anything.
You got it.
Okay, well that was a surprisingly good lightning round. You almost got like all of them, so that was really good.
Cool. I didn't embarrass myself.
No.
I'm gonna have to tag Purple Daily in this.
There you go.
See, have me on.
Sure, I'm an expert. I can do this.
Yeah.
That was great. So I think bringing it back to the business conversation, we talked about a lot. I think one of the biggest things I'd like to get more input from you on would be advice to second generation owners of a company. There's a lot of different variations of it. Family farm. It could be something where similar to you guys, service business, product business.
Sure.
If there's somebody listening that their parents own a company with full intention to hand it down to them, what advice would you have for them to have a successful exchange of power, so to speak, so the whole place doesn't go up in flames?
Yeah. Biggest thing that I would suggest is if you're interested in the business, obviously, you've probably been around it your whole life, whatever, but you make that decision that this is something I want to do, I guess, and every family's different, but don't go in there demanding things. Because at the end of the day, especially in a family business, at least majority of them that I know of, because I know a lot of the car wash industry, there's a lot of family businesses, right? A lot of distributors, whatever, that are family owned. If you go in there and start demanding, big salary, I want this, 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 and this for me to come here, then I'll come here. Well, usually that's going to land on deaf ears. In my experience, is I guess I would look at it look at the overall picture of it is look at it okay, it's already successful. It's already established, right? Which is huge because can you imagine what it would cost to start a business now versus 40, 50 years ago and the risk that you take. Here's something that's already going. And you look at that and go, okay, what can this potentially do for me? And what can I bring to the table of it? And go in there with that attitude, And I've had this with other, again, family businesses where I work with the second generation and they come in, they're like, oh, I'm leaving, my dad don't pay me enough. I'm like, okay, what are you going to go do? They're like, oh, I'm going to go sell, I don't know, water softeners somewhere else, Oh, okay, cool. Sounds good. Sure enough, here's the trade show 2 years later. There he is in the booth. And I'm like, oh, well, hey, what's up? How are you doing? How'd that get, So it's like, oh, I'm back, and I'm trying to, get back into it, But it's just like, if you show your worth and you prove your worth and you show that what you can bring to the table, I think the rest of it will take care of itself, especially in a family business. I mean, not all family businesses are as tough on you as my father is on me. So, there might be some, different kind of hierarchy, and every business is different too. You got to think of that. But I guess that'd be my biggest suggestion. Don't go in there. Don't go in there with you owe me this, and this before I even start. Don't go in with that mentality because, in my opinion, if you go in there with that positive attitude of what can I bring to the table, you'd be surprised what it'll eventually do for you. I guess that's my biggest recommendation.
Sure.
So I learned that lesson. So,
yeah. Well, as we're thinking, you mentioned multiple times, you guys have this unified goal, this unified vision, we're all in the same boat, going the same place. What is that vision for you guys, and how have you articulated where you want to be in the next 5, 10 years and beyond?
Sure. It's funny. We just finished our 5-year upgrade plan. So it started with those machines that we talked about. Well, that spiraled into many, many more, honestly, millions of dollars that we have put back into the business the last 5 years. And I started it then. I am literally one project away tomorrow from it being completed. So that was that. So now we're looking we're actually going to have a meeting here at the end of the year and talk about the future. And our biggest thing is we have, we do wash count reports every month, see how many cars we wash, blah, blah, blah. Well, there's some months that are lower than others. And it's like, okay, we look at the good months, then we look at the slower months. Well, how do we make that the good month? That's just normal, right? So that's what we're going into. That's the 5-year, 10-year goal, is to double the volume. Again, because since I took over, that's the other thing that I got big respect from my dad on, is ever since, from me and then my brother and my sister, our leadership, we've doubled the volume. We've doubled the income. And there's no denying it. He openly admits that. So that gets a lot of respect. But again, wasn't overnight. It was a lot of tough days. But yeah, that's the goal in the next 5 to 10 years, is to double it again. We just opened a new location. So you could say, oh, I want to build more car washes. Well, I'm one, this is where me and my dad differ a little bit. He's on, if you want more volume, I got to build another car wash. My opinion on that is, okay, but when you build more, quality becomes a factor, right? The more you add, the more work it is, the more people you need, the more, car wash is there's so many factors involved. It's a very easy thing to lose quality on, right? So he's like, oh, well, we want more volume. We got to build another one. No, we have 31 of them that, in my opinion, could do more. So why don't we focus on, we just upgraded them all. We just put millions and millions of dollars into these things. Why don't we focus on getting the numbers up on the ones we have, right? Growing our app memberships, right? We have memberships through our app. So it's like, okay, how do we double that? That's guaranteed revenue every month, right? A subscription model, right? It's so big in today's world. Okay, so how do we take it from this to this, right? So that is where me and him differ a little bit. But, he's coming around because, again, it proofs in the numbers, right? So when you're doubling your volume, it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe there is another way to do it. His old adage was, if I want more volume, I got to build another one. And that's not to say that's not true for other businesses. But to me, it's like we are very much the slow and steady wins the race. We are not building them on every corner.
Sure.
I am very much a, quality first. Quality will win out. Customers, the best advertisement, you talked about this when we first started, best advertisement is how clean the car is when they leave. We can, all the other stuff, is helping, is great, social media, all this fun stuff. But the best advertising is their car's clean when they leave, they're happy. They're going to come back.
Sure.
So,
well, I think it's an interesting concept because you're bringing more the efficiency, like what your dad brought was more the just like hard nosed work hard, but it's like work smarter, not harder. Like we can still do double the volume of revenue with the same infrastructure. It does not require more locations. It's just like with these high efficiency ones, you can do double the amount. So you could, hypothetically, you could have twice the amount of cars through there. And yes, your water bill is going to be higher and you'll need more tools and upkeep, but it's the infrastructure's there. I think that's a big thing because I think about it when I go to a grocery store, and if you just go to the checkout lane and listen, I'm sure the owners of Hy-Vee or Fairway or whoever, when they're listening, that's just cha-ching, the beep, beep.
Yeah,
that's like
right. It's
money,
like music
money,
to their
money.
ears. Yeah.
So in your case, it's like we should be seeing like 2 or 3 deep at each bay all the time before we're ready to open another one. Or
exactly
if that location's bogged down, what's a couple blocks down the road that we could have another location?
That's the exact conversation that I want to have with him at the end of this year, is say, okay, so, because, like I said, we just opened a brand new one in Indianola last November. So we have 2 locations down there now. And that was a ginormous investment. And again,
that's a really good location too. Probably not very cheap either.
No,
it's in the nice area there.
Not cheap. Especially during the economic climate that we've been in for 4 years, right? With inflation, all this fun stuff. So, but again, we didn't stop. We didn't let that stop us. So that's why, I was kind of telling him recently, I'm like, okay, we spent the last 4 or 5 years literally pouring everything back. Millions of dollars back into the company and all these things. And, we're small business. It's people, I think our customers realize it because when they come, they constantly are seeing new stuff, right? They're seeing the new signage, they're seeing the new packages, they're seeing the new tellers, they're seeing always new stuff. Well, that tells them right there that, these guys are really paying attention because they're always reinvesting. You never, because every so many years you got to give them something new, which is what we just did. We just did new packages. I'm not a believer in charging more for the same thing. I've never, because I think of it like from a consumer side. Okay, you're charging me more for the same car wash, right? Me, I'm like, so all this prices that are going up everywhere, right? You hear about that. We just raised our prices. We raised them before COVID because remember the new machines, right? So we had the new machines, we had new feature, Well, then we haven't raised them since. Then here we are. I started this year. We had all this infrastructure done. I said, okay, I want to raise our prices, but I want to give the customer more. I want new features. I want new products. I want graphene. I want ceramic. I want all this stuff, right? Okay, that's great. Well, how is that all going to work? Well, long story short, it took all year, but we're finally done with it. And we raised our packages $2 a package, but we're giving them twice as many passes. The cars are cleaner, So I'm a big believer in that. So, I don't like charging more for the same thing. So
sure. No, I think it's a good point. And especially with how it goes now with you guys owning the land too. If you guys have an underperforming location,
right
now it's not like this huge expense. You just like sell the location if you wanted to. I mean, you could take your proprietary stuff out, but you have a lot of leverage either way you want to go. You could expand it, you could sell it.
Well, and Des Moines, we love Iowa. I mean, Des Moines is great because again, you get the snow. I mean, the snow is huge for us. The number one grossing place to have a car wash is Colorado. Those guys wash cars because it snows in the morning and it's 60 in the afternoon. Like, you want to talk about car wash volume? Go to Colorado. Like, that's on another level. But here again, we have the rain, we have the snow, so we get a good mix here. But I always look at someone might come along and want our lot or whatever. I look at it like, okay, cool. They want that. Then it's like, well, Des Moines shifting, right? Now Ankeny's ginormous. So our location's in southern Ankeny. Well, I look at like northern Ankeny. Look at Costco. That whole area is getting developed right now, right? I mean, it's blowing up. I think they got a new golf course going in right there by Costco and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, I look at that and I go, well, there's like 100,000 people up there. And, especially with subscription model, I look at like, well, you're going to constantly have people moving in and out all the time, right? You're going to have new home buyers. You're going to have people move in, for business, and then they move out. So you're always going to be able to grow your subscription base because you constantly have a population that's changing versus maybe a part of town that's more established and there's not as many people moving in and out. It's just the same cars over and over, which there's nothing wrong with that either. But then that's where you could make that decision. It's like, okay, well, this one's, it's just not, doing this, and they want to give us X amount for the land. Well, now let's go put one where there's new, right? Let's go put one where there's right here. Again, not going to 7 locations, 8 locations, 9 locations. It's okay. Well, this one we're going to offload, and then boom, now you're going to go here because this one's going to do triple the volume. Sure. But now you're just back up to 6 again. You know what I mean? And that is what I foresee for us. My dad might have a different opinion on that, but that's what I foresee for me, my brother, my sister is, we're that 31 machines is kind of our threshold. One of my buddies, he's the sales manager here at Hicklin Power Sports here in Grimes. He's always told me, he's like, we have that sweet spot of sales, right? He's like, we do X amount a month. That's our sweet spot. But then if they try to expand and bigger, by them selling more machines, it actually decreases their margin because of what they have to do to sell that extra 100 4-wheelers a month, right? So I go, oh, well, so more is not always better, in my opinion. There's got to be a fine balance, and then again, that quality plays in there too, right? You don't want to lose the quality because then people aren't going to use it. So, so it's interesting when I look at that. But yeah, so when you say that, it's like, okay, sell land, okay, that one's gone, but here we come to Ankeny, or here we come to Grimes, or here, Johnston, wherever. So yeah, because that population is always moving.
Right. One thing I was telling you too, there's the Time to Shine car wash is for sale in Polk City. And it's this huge lot on the main drag, and there's a Hy-Vee going in across the street.
Is there?
Yeah, okay. And you guys typically are nearby Hy-Vee, so I'm like, it'd be perfect.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody's washing their boats in the summertime with like the 2 lakes right there, and then driving through to Ames for Cyclones games and stuff. So.
We always on our Facebook page, when you come to Altoona, when you come to Altoona. I mean, we get that a lot. We even get emails about that. So I don't know what's going on in Altoona, but I know we really haven't gotten into it much about the competition and stuff. But at the end of the day, we offer something different. People, all our customers are always asking us, what's with all these car washes being built? Well, they figured out before COVID, and this is my very generic understanding of it. I'm not a finance guy. I believe in the 7 days a week grind. That's what I'm good at. I'm not good at, stock manipulation or whatever. So basically they found that these hedge funds and all of these big, investment firms, they found that, okay, car wash is a model that they can use to park money in to show a return, right? Because all these hedge funds and investors, if they show a return, that's what their job is, right? They want to get a return on their investment. Well, they found that car washing is they pop one up, and they're not here. I don't like talking because at the end of the day, they are job creators too. I don't like to get into that. I always like to just highlight how we're different. I never like to knock and be, like this. I just like to show, well, we're different and here's how. I don't ever like to knock a competition. But anyway, so all these big hedge funds and all this started parking a lot of money in car washing because they pop one up quick. It only takes about 4 to 6 months to build one, whereas us, it takes like 2 to 3 years. I mean, it's a big deal because ours are all automated. These are, manned. They got people there to do basically all of it. They pop them up. They sign up as many people as they can in the first 6 months. Well, that's fun to show on the balance sheet, right? This one has guaranteed. Well, then almost as soon as they build them, they're for sale. You know what I mean? So it's just like so anyway, that's what's going on.
It's more of like a financial vehicle to show return than
yes. Well, like Mr. Car Wash too, that's a big one right around here. Mr. Car Wash, they're a publicly traded company now. They went public, like maybe 3-4 years ago now. But yeah, they're a publicly traded company, so they have quarterly reports that they have to report to their investors, to the national world, and how you do that is you buy existing tunnel car washes, you buy or build or whatever, because remember they have to show gain, right? That's the idea, otherwise people are going to not invest in it. So that's the game that's going on. Not to say, I mean, obviously they can clean a car. Why would they build them? I mean, they couldn't afford to just build them and sit there. But I just look at it like, I don't know how long it'll go. I don't know if it's a fad or not. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know if they're going to go by the wayside at some point. I have no idea. But I just always highlight how we're different. Their brushes, we're touchless. They're closed at 7. We're open 24/7. Blah, blah, blah. And, we just go back and forth. And I let the customer decide. I mean, go watch, like the customer, over here, they're cheaper. I'm like, okay, go try it. Look, and then sure enough, you see them in line like a week later.
Sure.
Not all the time, but, is I just tell them like, this is what we do. This is what we offer. And if it works for you, great, awesome. But if it doesn't, hopefully see you back in the future. So
sure.
I don't get too all shook up about that because literally there is one on like every corner.
Right.
So anyway.
No, I get it. And I think it's part of the experience of, like even in my town in Polk City, we have the one that's up for sale. Mm-hmm. It's old or dilapidated. You can tell the owners didn't keep it up. The few times that I'm there, like your car's not even clean when it's done. Yep. And then something new Quick Start just came to town.
Yep.
So they have their on-site ones that they do.
Yep.
It's brand new. It actually cleans the car. So now
Norwalk just got one, Quick Start.
Yeah. So they start siphoning all this customers away, and then it's like, it's sad to see one go out, but also like competition breeds success, or at least increases the overall quality of the experience for people. So.
That's what I mean. Competition is number one. I mean, that's what forced me to revamp our packages, come out with better product, right? I mean, I'm motivated to do that because there are. I mean, I'm crazy to think they're not taking customers away from me. They are 100%. Whether they're trying it once or they go there for a few months and then they come back, one way or another, they're taking customers away. So it's like, okay, how do I come up with new things that I can do to, appeal and get people back? Well, one big thing is, a new partnership that we have with Hy-Vee, selling our wash codes in those 4 Hy-Vees that are right by our locations. And that's been a great thing. And I always just tell people, Hy-Vee's a big company, and I always tell people, Hy-Vee wouldn't partner with us if we were doing a bad job, because they're not going to want to put up with us. I mean, we're small peanuts compared to them. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's people always say, why are you guys by Hy-Vee? My dad's a genius. They got way more money than we do. Follow them, right? Clearly Hy-Vee knows something we don't. You're right.
Sure.
So that's always been, because people always go, well, how did you pick where to build? We follow Hy-Vee. That's what my dad did. He just followed Hy-Vee.
Sure.
And no, they've been great. I mean, it's an awesome partnership. I always tell customers, I'm like, partnerships like that, they're not going to put up with us if we're not doing our job. I mean, nothing's perfect. Don't get me wrong, but it's like they're not going to let us do that for their customers if we're not putting out a good product. So that's just one example. So
sure.
Yeah.
Well, I know you had mentioned a couple of times you guys have a membership model. Was that something that you guys implemented as the kids, or was that something your dad did? And What has doing a membership subscription done for your guys' business?
So it's been huge. I'll tell you that. So my dad didn't believe in him because he goes, because the tunnel washes are unlimited, right? That's the big word, unlimited washing, until you read the fine print. But anyway, I digress. Anyway, they close too. They close, they can regulate it because they close at 7. But anyway, so my dad's like, okay, so how are we going to do a subscription, unlimited washing? We're open 24/7. My dad always thinks like the worst case scenario, always. So you're telling me that they're going to have an unlimited membership? They're going to be washing the whole neighborhood at 10 o'clock at night while we're at home. We won't even know. And he's like, we'll never make money and all this and that. And I'm just like, yeah, but it's something we got to have. And he's like, okay, well then what they have is they have the RFID sticker in your window with the gate, right? With the arm, just like a parking pass, like at a parking building. I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all because I told him, I said, okay, the last thing I want my mechanics doing is climbing in the customer's vehicle to install a sticker. like, okay, so what? The customer's going to have to make an appointment because, again, our places are self-service. My attendants are there, but they're mainly there for maintenance and mechanic work, right? So I'm like, okay, so how's that going to work? People are going to make an appointment to get a sticker installed. You can't mail it to them because then they can just hand it out to anyone and everyone. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, that's not a good idea. Well, then we were on the ground floor with a company called Beacon Mobile, who is now DRB. But anyway, they had an app and a car wash app, and they were the first ones to do it. Well, they had partnered with our pay station company, which is out of Canada. And they were in their booth, and we met them and everything. And I think we were customer number 2. So we helped them build this thing that they have now sold, but good for them. But it's an app that it took a lot of development. It took me 2 years to develop it and then implement it and build it. And people say, what do you mean? Well, I wanted the app to work at all the locations. If you signed up for a membership, I wanted it to work at all 6. Well, the tech infrastructure of that took a while. And that's where I came. That's one of the things with the new machines, all this. So I convinced my dad, like, hey, we got to do this. He's like, okay, fine, yeah. So he's always treated as, oh, it's just something we have to offer now. It's just part of the way life is. Well, luckily, it's getting to the point now where it's not just something we offer. It's a big part of our business. So it's been very successful. And there's always flaws. Apps are flawed. There's always ways to make it better. And we always are trying that. But it's been great because you literally can market to people when they're sitting on their couch. They can sign up 24/7. I don't have to do anything. They just get on their phone, sign up, drive to the wash, scan the QR code with their camera, triggers the wash, drive in. And that's 24/7 too. So they can go at any time of the day. They can go to any of the locations. So building all that infrastructure was worth it because I didn't like the idea of just having it limited to their one location. Because sometimes our locations are down, whether it be at we're upgrading something big, or it's down for utility, like the internet line, fiber cut, water main break, right? Well, at least they can go to the one up the road and use it there. You know what I mean?
Or like I find I'm all over the metro all week, just depending on where, one day I'm in Indianola, another day I'm in Altoona, another day I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. It's like, well, maybe if I'm coming in from Omaha and my Jeep's all dirty, I'm like, well, there's one right here in West Des Moines. Like, I'll hop in there.
There you go.
It's like those things are helpful because it's that extra layer of like helpfulness, So.
Yep. And we try our prices are competitive with what the tunnel prices are. And, we do have this is something my dad came up with. We do have a 48-hour hold on there. So technically, if you did the math, you can get up to like 15 washes a month if you really wanted to. But we do that. And I tell our customers this, we do that. And it's something my dad came up with. And it's genius because you have a ticker on there and it literally tells you when you're eligible for your next wash. Well, the reason we do that is because, again, we're open 24/7. So you have to regulate this somehow because we're washing with water, soap, and air, and we use a lot of water. That's why we have the reusable water systems, but we use a lot of water per car. A lot of these tunnel washes, it's the brushes are doing the work, right? our water is doing the work. Water is not cheap. So I always think of like, it's a very different way of washing. Like you have to limit. But anyway, we found our niche with it, and we have it's growing every year. And customers are figuring that out. And I mean, of course, the customer's like, hey, why aren't you guys unlimited? Why aren't you this? Why aren't you that? And I'm like, we have reasons, and thank you for your suggestion. Yeah, appreciate that. But it's like, it's something that's worked for us. And, it's when you literally have a site that's not closed ever, it's like, you got to regulate it somehow. So
sure. Well, I think again, to your point, the consistent cash flow, now you guys can project and prepare and of like, okay, well, we have this much guaranteed. Now we can increase this expense or reinvest or pay out at Christmas for a check for all of our employees, whatever you want to do. Like you have options now, which is nice.
Exactly. It's just another big revenue stream for us, and still single pay is still big for us too. Like the codes at Hy-Vee, they pay the full price, or if they pull it to the machine, the tap pay, right? Just saw a guy using his Apple Watch the other day. That blew my mind. Didn't even know that we could do that. I didn't even think of that. And he's just like with his Apple Watch on the pay station. I'm like, oh, that's sweet. We need to get a video of that. So I'm like, but yeah, that's a big part of it too. Cause we put these new pay stations in that we spent ton of money on to develop, but it makes the experience quicker. It makes it easier for the customer. And so I like that we offer both, a lot of these other tunnel car washes, they're cashless. They're going to a membership only model where if you're not a member, they're doing all that. But I feel like you're alien. Like we still take cash. We have two validators in the teller there that take 1s, 5s and gives cash in return for change. So to me, it's like, you think cash is going away, but cash is a big part of the business too, is people have dollar coins, quarters, we still take all that. So my dad always said, if they want to give me their money, I want to give them as many ways as possible to give it to me. And it's like, sometimes I get like that too. I kind of get like, oh man, cash is a lot of work. Cash is a lot of work. It's like 50% of my job. But at the same time, I always flirt with, oh, let's get rid of it. Let's just go all, tap and all this stuff. Well, what happens when that fiber line gets cut? Cash still works. That's what my dad always argues with me. He's like, well, cash still works. And I'm like,
well, and you'll get some of the older folks that they get grouchy about cash. It's like, I've had, I was on an airplane. They don't have any cash now.
Yeah. U.S. Bank Stadium, no cash.
Their claim was, well, then someone could rob the airplane. I'm like, where are they going to go? They got a freaking parachute on under their jacket or something.
Yep.
They're just going to jump out with my $15 and change. But I think it's different. And same thing with my business. Like I was hesitant to do online card pay, but almost every client I have pays that way because it's just, I could write you a check and put it in the mail, or I just like click a button, boom, it's done. It's like,
you get that invoice from like say QuickBooks, and you literally can boop boop done, and it's in your account. You're done deal. So,
and yes, there's a cost of doing business. Like in your guys' case, you guys have to pay your card processing fees and whatnot. But if you get a good relationship with your processor, they might lower it 0.5%, which could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Or they could give you like bulking discounts or like whatever. Like there's ways to do that too, where you can work relationships with people.
Well, like my dad, I got to hand it to him because he led the crusade on tap. I will give him full credit for that. I wasn't fully sold because I didn't use it personally. I'm not a tap. I am now. I'll admit I am now. But he was a big proponent of that. He's like, this is the future. This is phones and paying. I'm like, they can pay with their phone. They can get our app. And they can pay with their phone. Like we have that because that was his argument. He's like, I want them to be able to use Apple Pay. I'm like, well, why would they do that when they have our app? That was our big argument for a while. I'm glad we did it now because just from our business, the mag strip fees are higher than the tap fees.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Is it like a 3% for the swipe and then taps like 2 or something?
Yeah, it's like 4.2, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's much higher for just because the compliance side of it now, right? It's the identity theft. Like our app, we don't store people's info in our app like at all. So because I love that because it's like, fraud, fraud's a thing. So we don't store their info in there. We don't know what it's all like hands off. That's what I like about it too, is they can get in there and it's all on them. Like I can't sign them up. Like, have you heard about this whole, places will just sign you up for a membership and not tell you? I mean,
sure.
I mean, that's happening all around. And there's been lots of news stories about that you go there and just buy one. Well, they have your card info. So they just go ahead and flip you from a single pair to look it up. It's all there's a ton of washes that do that. I've seen some. There was a big story out of Missouri last year with that. And I forget the outfit that did it, but it was a big chain that was doing that. You pay for a car wash with your card. They had your card info. They just flip it to a membership and not tell you.
Sure.
And that's so crooked. But anyway, that's why I think it's more, because with the mag strip, there's less security with it and all that. So anyway, getting back to that, I'm glad that we converted to that. Plus, it's a lot easier. You just go and it's on.
Sure. No, I think it's great. And it's interesting to see the subscription model work in certain industries, because some it doesn't.
Yeah,
some it does.
Doesn't.
Sometimes it's way more convenient because then you don't have to sell every time. It's just like sell once and that keeps coming back, which is super nice that way too.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my other questions I had for you, we're almost to the end here. You mentioned you have to stick your neck out sometimes, and you have to take on the consequences for good, bad, indifferent actions.
Right.
For someone that's been doing this for over a decade now, what is your biggest fear in business?
Oh man, that's a good question. My biggest fear in business is, you get into a point where if you make a bad investment, like let's say we built that new car wash, let's say, and someone would say, well, you already have one in that town. So why are you doing that? Well, it's like, well, that one's 30 years old, so it's just better to just build another one, and plus there's a lot of volume down there. But anyway, my biggest fear is that you make that decision, and I think you're crazy to think that it can't happen to you. Bankruptcy is a thing, right? You hear about it with a bunch of local businesses. They made a bad decision, or they got sued, or they built the house wrong, or, you see this on Channel 13, Channel 8 all the time. That's my biggest fear, is like, oh man, we overdid it. Now we're going to lose it all. Like we can't pay our bills. We made a bad investment or whatever. But at the same time, you can't grow without risk. And I guess that's why you put good people around you, people you trust, people that aren't outsiders, like my brother, my sister, my dad. That's who I have these conversations with, and they've earned that trust. So that's my biggest fear, is that it literally could just take one investment, right? And then now, like I've thought, I can't go work for someone at this point. Like there's no way, like, and like you mentioned, there's NCS car wash distributors right here in Grimes, Iowa. They distribute tons of equipment around the country, around the world. They're right here in our backyard. And, I just couldn't see myself able to do that. I've been my own boss now for a long time. So that's my biggest fear. But then it's like, okay, I've gotten accustomed to a certain lifestyle with my kids and my wife, having to go home and tell them and say, we got to start over. Biggest fear right there. So that's what motivates me to get out of bed every day and make sure that never happens to the best of my ability.
Sure. No, that's a great answer. I love that.
Yep.
We mentioned kind of goals for things going forward. Anything that we haven't touched on that you think people would be beneficial to hear kind of about your journey, or something that you want to leave people with?
The biggest thing is, I think that it gets lost on, I think it's coming back more strong now, is just shop local, right? That saying, shop local. It used to carry a lot of weight, and I feel like now, the Costco's of the world, the Quick Stars of the world.
Amazon, for sure.
Amazon.
I'm guilty.
Yeah.
I'm guilty.
So
I need AA batteries. I'm like, I could go down to the local hardware store. I could click same day, and it's in my driveway in like 2 hours.
That Ankeny Costco is like my mecca. Like I joke that if we sold the car washes for some reason someday in my career, I'd go apply at Costco for the rest of my life. I'd be happy. Like,
their managers make some great money.
Oh, they do.
They're doing really good.
We buy all our salt from them. We have to bring our 30-foot flatbed to pick up 10 pounds of salt. They love us up there. They're just like, man, these guys, how much salt do you need? Like, yeah, we need about 300 bags. There's so anyway, but yeah, shop local, it does mean, because to me, like you're a local guy, we could have hired any I get emails all the time. Hey, I can up your social media. Hey, I can do, but they're big advertising firms and all this. But there's something to be said about shopping local because you're like me, you pay attention to your business more. It's yours. You're there every day. You're a real person, right? And I just feel like that here in Des Moines too, because Des Moines is not huge, but yet we are. And all the suburbs are interconnected. Like we're not 45 minutes spread apart. So it's a small town atmosphere, but yet it's not, I feel like shopping local is a big deal. And I enjoy Costco too. Don't get me, Costco, all these big places. I'm not saying stop going there, but when you consider these things, work with local businesses too, like we are right now, and it's a big deal. And I hope that people take that. And then for me personally is you can work with family. It can be done. It just takes a lot of patience and common goal.
Sure.
Get everyone on board saying, listen, we can all disagree on this, but we got to have a common goal that trumps all of it, right? That says, if this is the goal, it is over everything else. No matter what little fights we have going on, that goal will always win out. So that's the biggest thing, and that's how you make it work.
Sure. No, I love it. I love the conversation. We'll definitely be putting details about all the stuff Executive Laser Wash in the comments. You also mentioned that this special promo code just went live today. So what is the promo code and what do people get if they check out one of you guys' washes?
So code ODD podcast, right? ODD podcast, all one word. If you go to our app from your app store, either Google Play or Apple, and download our app, and you go to sign up for a new membership, if you type in that code ODD podcast, it'll give you half off your first 2 months of membership. So 50% off for 2 months. So it's a great deal, and that's on all the package options. We have 4 options. So sign up, works at all 6 of them, and enjoy the touchless washing. Again, people are investing a lot of money in their cars. Cars are not cheap. So I think more than ever, we're seeing it. People are paying attention to where they go to get it serviced, where they go for gas, where they go. Because, again, these are like, $60,000, $70,000 cars anymore. They're not cheap. So we like to say that, we're touchless. We do not touch your car. It's all hands-free is our biggest marketing. So try it out, see what you think. And, we'd love to have you as a customer. I think you'd really enjoy it.
Sure. Well, yeah, and we'll definitely, like I said, link all that up below. You'll also be hearing about Executive Laser Wash and other shows because you guys are sponsoring some episodes.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
So if we're beating you over the head with a stick with this stuff, it's a great company. I've experienced
40 years this year, 40 years, or next year, 25, 40 years, man. So that's something to be said when you're dealing with vehicles, you know what I mean? Because that can change in a landslide, right? But the fact that we're still here, we're still doing it, we're growing, just built a new location, I think that has to say something about how we operate our business, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Spenser, thanks so much for coming on. Thanks for acing my Viking gauntlet of questions.
Dude, I'm impressed with myself. I think I'm a bigger fan than I thought. Maybe I need another hobby.
Sure. There you go.
I don't know.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time. And again, thanks again for everybody for watching another episode of the Rhymes with Odd podcast. If you're watching on Spotify, YouTube, make sure to subscribe. If you're on iTunes, give us a 5-star review. And until next episode, my name is Ryan Snod, a Rhymes with Odd, and you're listening and watching the Rhymes with Odd podcast. Peace. Thank you so much for watching yet another episode of the Rhymes with Odd podcast. We really do appreciate your support. If you could give us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes, that makes a world of difference, guys. Also, if you're tuning in on YouTube or Spotify, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode, and check us out on social media. Also, if you'd like to inquire more about our services here at Snod Media Group or learn about doing your own podcast for your own business, you can find us at snodmedia.com. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace.